where we're diving into the wildly conflicting advice on how to prepare the absolute perfect tofu dish. We are chasing that ultimate gold standard. I'm talking Michelin-star restaurant quality perfection, but the path to actually get there, well, it's heavily disputed.
You know that feeling when you've made tofu and it just goes limp way too quickly, or worse, completely shatters in the pan? Have you ever wondered if the secret lies in boiling it first? I know, it sounds totally counterintuitive, right? Plunge a watery block of soybean curd into a pot of boiling water to somehow make it crispier? Yet this exact method sits right at the heart of a massive culinary debate.
Okay, so here is our roadmap for today. We'll look at the great tofu divide, explore the case for boiling, check out the hard science against it, dive into some alternative prep methods, and finally, put all this into practice in the kitchen.
Let's kick things off with a big divide. Is boiling a brilliant kitchen hack or a complete scientific disaster?
We're starting with a classic kitchen headache, soggy, bland tofu. If you've ever tried to achieve that crisp Michelin-level crust at home, you know that managing moisture is basically your biggest hurdle. It is a true clash of titans here. On one hand, you have decades of Asian culinary traditions and experienced chefs championing boiling as a fundamental step. On the other hand, modern lab-tested food science views it as a structurally catastrophic kitchen hack. So let's hear both sides out impartially. Let's start by stepping into the kitchen and looking at the case for boiling from the chef's perspective.
According to culinary masters, boiling actually dehydrates the outer layers of the tofu. The heat supposedly forces the innermost liquid right to the surface. Once you take it out and let it steam dry, you're left with a remarkably dry exterior. And this is huge because it means you aren't battling water in the pan, you avoid those terrifying hot oil splashes, and you're practically guaranteed a Michelin-standard golden crust. Plus, the salted water lightly brines the tofu from the inside out.
And honestly, it's incredibly simple to pull off in your own kitchen. You just use a 1 to 2% salt solution, so about 1 or 2 teaspoons of salt per 500 milliliters of water. Drop your cubed tofu into a rolling boil, simmer it gently so it doesn't break apart, and let it steam dry on a towel. It's a really elegant, time-honored technique.
But hold on just a second, because we need to look at the science against boiling, straight from the lab. Just as you might be getting ready to go boil some tofu tonight, physics steps in and gives us some severe whiplash. While the culinary claim is that boiling forces water out, food science reveals it actually creates an inward hydrostatic gradient. Basically, it doesn't push water out at all. It literally floods the tofu's protein matrix with even more water. Food scientists found that boiling plain tofu causes rapid protein collapse. This leads to a massive spike in water absorption of up to 47% within just 90 seconds. Because tofu is fundamentally a thermally induced soy protein gel, heating it up in water just causes those carefully structured proteins to unfold and dissolve. And it gets worse. This matrix swelling reduces the tensile strength of the tofu by up to 68%. The proteins expand, the entire structure collapses, and that satisfying meaty bite resistance you desperately need for a perfect stir-fry, it's completely eliminated. The lab results are, frankly, pretty brutal. Boiling causes an 18 to 23% loss of soluble soy proteins, depletes crucial nutrients like calcium and riboflavin, and completely ruins the natural umami potential. In blind taste tests involving over 100 professional chefs, boiled and seared tofu was an absolute disaster. It scored a dismal 3.2 out of 10. Why? Because the moment it hit the hot oil, it literally fragmented and failed. So, where does that leave us? Let's check out some alternative prep methods and proven solutions for that perfect texture.
If boiling works for some chefs but structurally destroys the protein matrix according to science, what do? Well, enter the microwave technique. By wrapping firm tofu in paper towels, popping it in a bowl covered with a plate to create a little steam chamber, and microwaving it, you efficiently steam out the excess water. It rapidly dehydrates the block without flooding the matrix, giving you absolutely fantastic results for pan frying.
Or you could always try the freeze and squeeze method. When you freeze tofu, the water inside turns to ice and expands, literally carving out tiny cavities. Once it's defrosted, you can squeeze it out like a sponge. This transforms its structural integrity into this highly resilient, meaty bite that is incredibly porous and ready to soak up heavy, rich sauces instantly.
And here is a massive takeaway for you. Cold marinating dense, untreated tofu is a total culinary myth. Simply leaving a raw block in a cold marinade overnight barely even scratches the surface. To get that deep, restaurant-quality flavor penetration, you absolutely need heat or structural changes like freezing to force the flavor inside. All right, let's bring it all home and see this tofu in practice, looking at two iconic dishes, mapo tofu and salt and pepper tofu.
Understanding the science and the tradition is one thing, but actually getting it onto the plate is where the real magic happens. Let's talk mapo tofu. It is the ultimate converter for tofu skeptics, just bursting with complex lip-tingling heat. But the real secret to its success is how it actually utilizes the tofu itself.
For this specific dish, Michelin-level chefs completely flip the script and recommend soft or silken tofu. We aren't trying to crisp it up at all here. True connoisseurs embrace the creamy contrast to the intense heat, using that cloud-like tofu as a mild canvas that perfectly balances the aggressive spices and that gorgeous signature deep red oil slick.
We're talking numbing Sichuan peppercorns, fermented chili bean paste, funky fermented black beans. These essential ingredients build an intensely savory sauce that coats every single cloud-like piece. You lightly blanch the soft tofu just to warm it up and give it a tiny bit of structural help, then gently fold it into the aromatic base. The result? Pure harmony between fiery heat and soothing creamy tofu.
Conversely, if we look at salt and pepper tofu, it proves that sometimes those traditional tricks still yield undeniably delicious results. By soaking firm tofu in hot, heavily salted water for 15 minutes before flash frying, you get this golden, chewy, crisp crust that just eagerly absorbs the white pepper and chilies. It perfectly highlights exactly why chefs continue to use hot water treatments, regardless of what the lab data says about structural integrity.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I'll leave you with this thought. Which side of the kitchen counter are you standing on? Are you going to trust the rigid, hard data of the science lab, or the time-honored instincts of the culinary masters? Whether you carefully microwave your tofu to protect its microscopic matrix, or plunge it into a rolling boil chasing that Michelin-standard crust, the path to culinary perfection is totally in your hands. Thanks for hanging out with me, and happy cooking.